Supreme decisions. And today I want to get into something that has come across because today it's relevant. And it's what to do when the police do not answer your Freedom of Information Act in the time it is supposed to be answered. Now, what happens is when you send out a Freedom of Information Act request, generally you want to make sure that you have a copy of the date it is received. Why? Because they have 20 business days. And what happens on that is there are certain exclusions. Saturday and Sunday is excluded in most instances, and federal holidays. Now, what happens is, you remember...
All right, listen, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove, okay?
If they don't answer within that 20-day period from date of receipt, generally I have people send it out, or I recommend that people send it out, and this damn thing keeps clicking, but I recommend that people send it out and do it where they have to sign for the request. So therefore there's a record, and that is your evidence that they received it, and your 20 days begins on that date. Now again, minus Saturday and Sunday and federal holidays. So what happens when they don't answer that? The first part is you make a phone call, because they do have an opportunity to ask for an extension of the 20 days. Generally, they won't do that because they're expecting you to be waited out. Now, let's say there is an extension. The extension is generally 10 to 20 more days. Now, best case scenario, why would they not do that? Well, if you check the video over my shoulder, I've given you the 9 reasons on why they may attempt to not give this information to you. And as long as you don't fall under those 9, you're fine. That leaves us in the instance of, well, what is my next option? Again, you can do a second filing. There's no fun in that, because just like Gerard Ford said,
in my experience, Nick, lessons not learned in blood are soon forgotten.
And how do you make a corporation bleed? Because that's what it is. They're doing things for revenue. You make them bleed by getting their attention regarding money via lawsuits. Now with this also goes into personal liability. Why? Because they have a fiduciary duty, and this is required by federal law, which that governs them. And a person who files a lawsuit and subsequently prevails may be awarded reasonable attorney fees and litigation costs reasonably incurred, and that is 5 USC 552 section A-4-E. And the reason why that's important is because you have to understand what it means to not have an answer. Just because they respond to you and they tell you you have to pay a certain price for the information that you're requesting, that's an answer, because that's what they are required to do. Now, you are not required to get it for free, but you are required to pay a man for their work.
If you're good at something, never do it for free.
And in this instance, you have to pay them for their resources. But even if they're not doing that, then you file a federal lawsuit. And then keep in mind, every state has it codified that there's a notification that's to be sent to the governor, to the state, of the state, prior to the filing of a lawsuit against any public official. Why? Because they're looking for a way to cover their own ass. Now, when you're thinking about it, or you're trying to figure out exactly how do you do that, generally whenever I have someone, or I recommend for someone to send out the Freedom of Information Act request, in the method in which I recommend it done, the governor and everyone else that needs to be notified prior to the lawsuit, they are notified. Then what happens is you file the lawsuit. and you send the appropriate parties the notice of lawsuit. And in some cases, you want to send them a fee sheet of what you've already incurred. Now, the easy about this is if it's there for fiduciary duty to work towards your benefit, and what they've done is the right thing, and it's the lawful thing, and if they're supposed to be the good guys, and everything they've done is lawful and correct, why not turn it over? So keep in mind, you file a Freedom of Information Act request, they do not respond. You have two alternatives. You either check and see if they filed for an extension, which generally they will not. You file a second Freedom of Information Act request, or you file a federal lawsuit. Those are your options. This is what has to come. This is what is necessary. So, until next time, I got you. Appreciate the donations. And today's episode is brought to you by Robin and Michael. Each of them didn't quite get to the number, but they did send in something. I appreciate you guys. Keep donating through Apple Pay, Venmo, Google Wallet. And as you know, I love my favorite, Cash App. And if you don't have the Cash App already, click the link in the description and we both get paid. So, till next time.
Do not try and bend the spoon. That's impossible. Instead, only try to realize the truth.
What truth?
There is no spoon.
There is no spoon?
Then you'll see that it is not the spoon that bends, it is only yourself.